I'm talking today about the Ten Commandments. I'm going to try and just race through them, and I know that we're not going to go into them as deep as probably we should do, but I just want us to be aware that they still stand today. So, I'm going to start with a story. It's a story about three men, and they stood at the side of the road, and it's pouring down with rain. And they stood at the side of the road and they're waving to traffic as it goes past. And the cars keep speeding past. And they're all going in one direction and nothing ever comes back the other way. Anyway, after waving to the people for quite a while, they turned to one another and said, "Do you think we should put a sign up?" So they painted a great big sign that simply said, "Turn back. Turn back." But still, the people drove right past them, just ignoring the sign, big as it was, "Turn back." Eventually, one of the three said, "Do you think we should just put that the bridge is out?" You see, that's the problem we have with life. The signs are there, and we ignore them. And people are telling us these signs, and they're trying to interpret them their way. And they're saying, turn back, turn back. But turn back from what? So today's message is going to be from Exodus 20. The Ten Commandments. Exodus 20, 1 to 17 says this: "I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Then the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honour your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbour. You shall not covet your neighbour's house. You shall not covet your neighbour's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbour. You shall not. Okay, you shall not. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. I could simply be saying, well, we should have no other religious gods, no other prophets. I could be mentioning Muhammad and Buddha, I could be mentioning lots of them. But I'm going to tell you this. This is what I think he's telling you. I'd like you to consider that the gods that he's talking about are not necessarily the household gods that were so prevalent at that time in the different areas, in the different countries, but those things that we make gods ourselves. Those things that we possess, that we hold on to so tight that we don't want to lose. Are we not making them our gods? Do we not hold on to the power and authority that we perceive that we have in this world when it means nothing? Do we not crave success? I'd say yes. But God says this: I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not give my glory to another or my praise to idols. I will not give my glory to another or my praise to idols. God should be number one in our lives. We should be willing to give up everything and anything for God. Because nothing is going to go to heaven with you. Not the nice clothes or the nice cars or the nice houses. Nothing we possess is going to go with us. We're going to get a new body, we're going to get new clothes. So don't worry about nothing. My praise to idol. Don't give praise to idols. Which brings us to the second commandment. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. Why? For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. The Amplified says, you shall not make for yourself any graven image. Don't make for yourself any graven image. If you turn to Deuteronomy 4, if everybody remembers where Deuteronomy is. It says this, in verse 12, I'm just going to read it off this, I've not got my glasses. It says this, then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire, you heard the sound of words but saw no form, there was only a voice. He said, bow down to no image. Why? Because no one has seen God in all his fullness. In part, but not in all his fullness. It goes on to say, you saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshipping things the Lord your God has appointed to all the nations under heaven. It goes on to say, be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. No idols or images, not of man or woman or animals or birds or creatures that move along the ground, not fish, not the sun, the moon, or the stars. Why not? Because the Lord has apportioned these to all the nations. They all see them. These things are for all the nations. They're not set apart for God's glory. In their beauty, in themselves, they glorify God and his creation. In nature, he's seen to be working, but they are not God. They are his creation, but they are not God. And only God is to be worshipped. And since we don't have a full image, we should refrain or hold back from trying to use it. Stop imagining what God looks like. I hear all the time right now, it seems to be a common thing about, well, what did Jesus look like? And it's like, well, he was Jewish. He looked like a Jew. But we've got them saying, oh, well, you can't have a white Jesus. And then I see a program and it's like, well, we have a totally black Jesus. And it's like, but he's Jewish. Why can't we just say that? Hold back. Stop trying to imagine what God will look like, because I'm telling you now, he's going to be more beautiful than you can imagine. I will touch on the next two subjects, but only very briefly, or I'll try to be very brief. This is what I believe God is saying when he says, I am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. Right, first, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation. Okay? At this time, and up until fairly recently, even in this country, we had multi-generational households. Multi-generational households. So you would have the grandchildren, or let's say the children, the parents, the grandparents, possibly the great-grandparents. Punishing the children for the sins of the fathers to the third and fourth generation. Children, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. Why are they punishing the children? I don't think it's punishing the children necessarily for the sins that each one's held accountable for their own sins. But I believe this. We pick up the way we talk, our intonation and our accent from our parents, from our grandparents. If our parents use foul language, you know what? We're going to use foul language. If our parents steal and think it's okay to do that, the lesson there is it's okay to do that. The children will learn that. If they see it as normal behaviour, they will copy it. Why? Because that's what they've learned. And the sin that the father commits will also be committed by the son and the grandson, because they see it being done, they see it acceptable, it's fine. I'm going to tell you, we used to rent a house out, and there was a lady that rented the house off us, and she got into a little bit of difficulty, and what happened was she decided, or rather I think her mother decided, that what she was going to do was buy a flat and have her daughter move into the flat. So what she said, you're all right, what she said was, stop paying the rent. Stop paying the rent so you've got money to give to me. So the mother said to the daughter, stop paying the rent, you can give that money to me when you move into my flat. So she stopped paying the rent to me. Now, what happened was, it went on for a period of time, I can't remember exactly how long it was, but what happened was she eventually moved out and moved into the flat that her mother had bought for her. So her mother has taught her daughter one important lesson there: you do not have to pay your rent. So a few months later, we hear that the mother's pulling her hair out because she's bought a flat for her daughter's moved in, and her daughter won't pay the rent. The mother taught the daughter that it was okay to not pay your rent. The sins that the mother passed on were you don't need to do that. She didn't teach her daughter a good lesson. She taught her that it was okay not to do that. So the sins were passed from one generation to another. One uncaring generation to another uncaring generation. The sins of the father passed to the third and fourth generation. Second thing it says is showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. To me, that's saying that's a covenant relationship. Then God said to Abraham, as for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, for the generations to come. If you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be a treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. God's simply restating that we have a relationship and a commitment to his people for all time. For all time. I don't know where each person in this room stands on evolution or creation, but I believe in creation. So it takes me next to no time to go, if the average person has got 70 and there's 1,000 generations, that's 70,000 years. I think that should see us out. Because God is simply stating, remember, my people, I have a covenant relationship with Israel. Let's move on to number 3. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Once again, the Amplified says, you shall not use or repeat the name of the Lord your God in vain. That is, lightly or frivolously, in false affirmations or profanity. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. The Lord is not a curse word. When somebody says Jesus, hallelujah. It's not a curse word. You shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shall you profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. It says, if you're going to make oaths, make them to God. Deuteronomy says, when you make a vow to the Lord your God, you shall not be slack in paying it, for the Lord your God will surely require it of you, and slackness will be sin in you. But if you refrain from vowing, it will not be sin in you. If you can't say anything, if you can't, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You don't have to promise. You don't have to give an oath. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. The vow which has passed your lips, you shall be watchful to perform. If you say you're going to do it, do it. A voluntary offering which you have made to the Lord your God, which you have promised with your mouth. Should I talk about taming the tongue, or do we all know that passage? About how it's boastful, or the evil that it can spread. Proverbs says, when words are many, sin is not absent, but he who holds his tongue is wise. He who holds his tongue is wise. Do not use the name of the Lord in vain. Watch what you say in all circumstances. Because you can so easy, when you get in with the wrong crowd and they start talking, it's so easy to just fall into talking the way they talk. That's okay if you're Scottish and you go to Scotland and you come back with a Scottish accent or an Irish accent. I'm sure when you come back it's stronger than when you went. But that's fine. But I'm talking about the people that are forever cursing or using the name of the Lord in vain. Don't have nothing to do with them. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Amplified says, earnestly remember. Earnestly remember. To do it seriously, that's what earnestly means. To seriously consider what you're doing. Earnestly remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, withdrawn from common employment and dedicated to God. Sorry, what is it? That's right, dedicated to God. He set apart the 7th day for his purposes. Now we know, we've talked about this, we've swapped the day. The Jews keep the Sabbath as the Saturday and we hold Sunday as the Sabbath. But just so that you understand, that Sunday has been kept from not that long after Jesus died. I think it's within 100 years when they flipped and we were now using the Sunday. But here's the thing. The Jews keep the Sabbath and they have regulations on how far they can travel, on what they can do, on how they can comb their hair. There are 39 different restrictions on the Sabbath, and I'm sure when you break one of those down, they break down into different sections as well. The seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter. Don't encourage people to work. You say, well, I don't do any work. But if you encourage other people to work, are you not creating a sin in somebody else's life? I remember we were at a church one time and there was a fellow there and he's called James. And we were talking about this. Well, he was talking about it. And at the time I was I'm on the fence as to whether or not we can do Sundays or not. And he simply said this. He was telling me about his mum. He said, my mum, if a button comes off my shirt, she will not sew it on a Sunday. She will not do anything on a Sunday. It's cold cuts from the night before. The meal's prepared and it's just brought out. And then he said this. This is what made me think. He's right. He said, my mum says, if we do what everybody else does, how will they know we're different? How will they know we're different? So if we do stuff on a Sunday and God says, don't do stuff, how are you going to look holy when the first thing they're going to do is go, look what you're doing? Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do certain things, because Jesus himself said, well, you're not going to help if there's an animal falls down a well. You're not going to pull it out. But as far as is possible, to you and to me, that's what we should be doing. And we move on to the next one. I will just point out, though, that the first four, talking about God and his holiness, massive amounts. And then we sort of move down, it's like just one or two lines now from now on. Honour your father and mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Regard and treat them with honour, obedience and courtesy. Your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land the Lord your God gives you. What is it to honour our parents? It's not to obey everything they command if they're not right, but it is to give them the respect that's due them. They bore you. My mother carried me for 9 months in her womb, and then she had to put up with me for many years after that, and I wasn't easy to get on with. We have to respect them. There are certain duties that we need to do. Respect them. They're getting old. My mum is in her 70s. She said to me, I suppose on the phone to her the other day, or yesterday actually, last night. She said, I've got to go to this place. I said, I'll take you. I'll take you, Mum. Because she's had to go that many times that she's getting a bit upset with it. And she needs somebody just to be there to strengthen her. Honour your parents. They deserve it. They deserve it. Number 6, you shall not murder. Once again, we had a discussion about, I can't remember who it was with, about murder. It's an unlawful killing of a human being with deliberate malice, either expressed or implied. I was saying that when I was younger, I had more violent tendencies. Let's put it that way. I had more violent tendencies. And I'll be perfectly honest, I held human life in very low regard. If somebody was beating a dog, then they would deserve to be beat more than the dog. But then I became a Christian. And I started to see people through God's eyes. And I saw how precious life is. My kids grew up and I wasn't really a good parent to them. But my grandkids, you'll never tell you a bad thing about me. I could not kill another human being. At one time, I would be the first person there. Now, I was saying to Chris, I said, I've never felt like this before, but now I would be a conscientious objector. I do not want to be in any war. I do not want to have any connection to any war where somebody's dying. There's not a piece of land in this world that's worth somebody's life. No matter how much it is. And God says, you shall not murder. You have no reason to take another person's life. Can we do it in war? Probably. Would it be held against you? Probably not. But to me, taking a life is wrong. Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. You shall not commit adultery. Jesus says, you have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. We judge by our actions in thought and word and deed. Not just what we do, but what we say and what we think. God sees all. God knows all. He knows every detail about you. So thought and word and deed, keep your eyes to yourself. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep your thoughts on Jesus. Okay? Proverbs says this, keeping you from the immoral woman, from the smooth tongue of the wayward wife. Do not lust in your heart after her beauty, or let her captivate you with her eyes. For the prostitute reduces you to a loaf of bread, and the adulteress preys upon your very life. Can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Can a man walk on hot coals without his feet being scorched? So is he who sleeps with another man's wife. No one who touches her will go unpunished. For although they claimed to be wise, they became fools, exchanging the glory of the immortal God for images that made to look like mortal man and birds and animals and reptiles. Therefore, God gave them over in sinful desires of their hearts to sexual impurity, for the degrading of their bodies with one another. It's not a place I want to be. It's not a place any of you should want to be. When I married Krista, people said, it won't last. It won't last. But it has. Do you know why? Because my desire is for that woman, no one else. I can tell you all I love you, because God loves you, and I can't describe what I was like and how I feel now. But I want to tell you this. Find the right person and have your desire, your passion for the one. Then your eyes won't wander. You shall not commit adultery. And yet, I see billboards saying, look at this woman, isn't she beautiful? You should be wanting this woman. Or, for the ladies, you should be wanting this hunk of a man. But no. You shall not commit adultery. Keep your mind clean. Get it out of the gutter. Get it up to heaven. You shall not steal. I was thinking about this long and hard because obviously we have a business. And I thought, well, it's not just about the fact that people will take things that doesn't belong to them. We had a young man on our estate, well, all the kids on our estate. It would appear that if you have a bicycle on the estate where I live, it's communal property. So he comes round one day on this bicycle and I went, that's not your bike. He said, no, it was left outside on the road. I said, well, is that not stealing? No, I'm borrowing it. I'll take it back. Everything's communal property. That would appear that way. You see, in their minds, that's okay. It's not stealing to take somebody else's stuff. It's borrowing. But when the other person comes out and goes, where's my bike? Trust me, the first thought is not somebody's borrowed it, it will appear back. You shall not steal. And then the bit that I struggled with. The Lord abhors dishonest scales, but accurate weights are his delight. I have to ask myself continually, am I trading fairly? We have a lady and she comes in and she does a little bit of printing for us and a little bit of stuff. And she has this saying, she says, fair exchange is no robbery. So she'll come in and she'll go, here's some business cards. These are the business cards you want.